Hey friends, this morning we are going to talk about author's purpose. So each day this week we've talked about a reading skill and a book, and we've read a book together. So this morning we're going to talk about author's purpose. And if you remember, the author is the person who has written the book that you're reading. Purpose is why we do something. So we're looking at what the author's reason is for writing the text that you're reading. So, in your journals this morning, or your reading notebooks, if you will begin this diagram with me, we are going to be filling it in during our small groups. So the author's purpose is why did the author write the book? And of course it could be a book, it could be an article in a magazine, but the text, whatever it is that you chose to read. So this morning I would like for us to venture into a book together. I don't think I'll have time to read it all, but we're going to read a little bit and then talk about the purpose. And in our small groups, we'll talk about a different purpose, and then tomorrow we'll finish our chart off with the third purpose. So today together, we're going to read the book, or begin the book. Let's see if I turn my light on better. A Giraffe and a Half by Shel Silverstein. He writes a lot of poetry. If you had a giraffe, oh my goodness, and he stretched another half, you would have a giraffe and a half. If he put on a hat and inside lived a rat, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat. If you dressed him in a suit and he looked very cute, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit. You guys hear all those rhymes? Might be reminding you of another author that you're familiar with. If you gulped a rose to the tip of his nose, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose. If a bumbly old bee stung him right on the knee, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee. And let's hear what word comes next with the E sound at the end. If he put on a shoe and then he stepped in some glue, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe. My bad. We changed rhyming sounds. If you gave him a flute and he played tooty toot, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute. If he used a chair to comb his hair, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair. Starting to look pretty silly. If he tripped on a snake who was eating some cake, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake. All that in one breath. If he found an old trunk and inside was a skunk, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake and a skunk in a trunk. If he met a fat dragon who sat in a wagon, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake, and a skunk in a trunk, and a dragon in a wagon. I'm going to stop here just because we still have about half the book left. And maybe we can finish it in whole group this morning if we have time. But I think we've read enough to understand the point of our first author's purpose. So the first author's purpose, which I think is the one most of us enjoy the most, is to entertain us. To entertain. Now, a lot of people, let me move my face. A lot of people think when we talk about or we're speaking about the word entertain, we're thinking about having fun and smiling and laughing. And in this book, that was very much the case, right? I don't know if you noticed my face, but I was smiling most of the time because it was getting really silly and it was pretty funny. But entertain really just means that the author is trying to help you enjoy the book by creating some emotion. So the author wants to, I'm going to write this together. The author wants to make us enjoy the story by creating, and I'm going to put this word in a different color, emotion. Okay? So when we say emotion, like I just said a second ago, move my notebook up. Emotion could be that I am happy, that maybe I am sad, maybe I'm mad or angry or kind of pouting like that was not okay. So there's different kinds of emotion the author may spark within us. And you guys probably are already thinking of a book that made you laugh, a book that made you scream. Okay, I have some of you guys reading Scream Street right now, which means it's probably kind of a scary story. So maybe you're like, oh, you know, while you're reading, that's an emotion, being frightened. Even if you're really not scared because it's just a book, it still frightened you. So your author wanted to entertain you. Some of the genres that we find these books in are fiction books. And those are, my necklace just fell off. Fiction books. Move me out of the way again. And those are a lot of the books that you guys enjoy reading. Fiction. And some of those different types of fiction are fantasy, they might be mystery, it might be a comic book. It could be, I know somebody already in their reader's notebook this week who told me about a joke book they read. It could be a joke book, so maybe jokes. Adventure. Or even romance or dramas. Those sweet love stories. Well, we'll leave that there. Okay? So those are some of the different genres you could choose from if you want to be entertained. Fantasy, mystery, comics, jokes, adventure, romance. And those are all a part of the fiction genre, which means they're not actual events that have really happened in the world. Someone made them up. Okay? So today when you come to class, we're going to discuss another author's purpose together. So make sure you have these notes in your notebook. I'm going to scoot out just a little so maybe you can see what the whole thing should look like on your page, so that you're ready to talk about one more author's purpose today to add in one of these spots. And I hope you enjoyed the beginning part of A Giraffe and a Half. We shall see you at morning meeting. Bye, guys.